I wanted to come on here. I had actually somebody reach out to me and ask me if I could do some education in a video on worksite setup and body positioning and stuff at worksite, because I talk a lot about that with my musician patients at their instruments. But she works at a desk job, and she was wanting some more information about this and how she can stay healthy because her wrists have been bothering her. So I'm going to talk about that today. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Heather. I am a certified hand therapist and an occupational therapist. And that just means that I specialize in treatment of injuries in the shoulder, elbow, wrist, and hand. One of the things that I did a lot of when I worked at UConn was I did worksite evals in the beginning, and they were fun and they were great because we would go out and we actually got to see how people were working at their desk, and that is crucial. So there are standard ways to set up your desk, to set up your workstation. But the problem with those standard ways is it's not one size fits everybody, all right? They're just guidelines, but everybody's body comes in a different shape and everybody works differently. So you may be longer in the trunk, shorter in the legs, vice versa. Your arms may be shorter, your fingers may be shorter, your neck may be longer than most. So all those play a role in how you actually set yourself up at your workstation. So the guidelines are great, and they are certainly more information than we had years and years ago, but it's important to take those guidelines and work them into what works for you. And if you have the ability to have somebody come and assess you, that's really important too, because we tend to get into certain habits that we do and we don't even realize that we're doing it. And certain muscle tension patterns that can be nipped in the butt to help prevent things in the first place can occur if you have somebody look at you. We're not always self-aware enough to realize that we're doing that. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as I go along in this video. So the one thing is your work setup, all right? So I'm going to show you what's not right and what's not good, all right? So I haven't set myself up the way that I should. I just threw my computer down. But this, all right, is not so good, all right? The reason it's not so good is A, my monitor's way too low for my head. My eyes are here, my monitor is way down here. My chair is too low for my desk, so I have to hike my elbows up and shrug my shoulders up, and I'm resting my wrists on the desk edge as I'm typing, okay? And you can sort of see the bend in my elbow is a little bit too much, okay, in order to get up to my keys, all right? My wrists are actually fairly straight compared, like when you look at it, they look like they're a little bit extended, but they're actually not in order to type, okay? So the one thing that we have to realize is that everything that we change, something else is going to need to be modified. So I like to start with the actual keyboard, because as you set yourself up appropriately at your keyboard, you're going to adjust your chair appropriately. So when you're at your keyboard, your elbow, all right, it shouldn't be bent. You shouldn't be up like this typing. Okay, that's not good. And you shouldn't be like really extended down when you're typing. You want to kind of be at about, 70-degree angle or so, 70 to 80, 90 is okay. But as you go to 90, you can sort of feel that there's more tension in your muscle. Okay, so about 70 or so is typically a good one. Your wrists should stay nice and straight, okay? Those keyboards, every keyboard has those feet on them, all right? Those things drive me crazy. People put the feet up and then it automatically puts their wrists into this position in order to type, okay? When you go into this position, you're actually stressing your median nerve in through the carpal tunnel. And then when you're resting on something hard or resting on anything, and if you're working a desk job and you're typing all day long, that's 8 hours at the minimum usually for people to be at their computer, resting their wrists, squishing their little carpal tunnel and their nerve, okay? So you want to avoid that at all costs. So in a perfect world, you have a keyboard tray that attaches underneath the desk, all right? And it actually has something called a negative tilt, all right? So the keyboard tray, if this is the tray, it would actually tilt down a little bit and your keyboard goes on top of the tray. And what that allows you to do is to be in a better position with your elbows, and it also allows your wrists to kind of not bend down, but stay in this neutral position when you're actually typing. Now, as you set yourself up at your keyboard, your chair is going to have to change. So your chair may have to come up a little bit higher or down a little bit lower, depending on what your keyboard tray is at. If you don't have a keyboard tray, what you want to do is make sure that your chair comes up high enough so that you're not shrugging your shoulders to reach your keyboard, that your elbows are in a good position, and that your wrists are as straight as you possibly can. Hook those feet down so that the keyboard actually stays flat, all right? And I know a lot of people will use those scrunchy gel pads in front of their keyboard, and those are okay. They're obviously better than a hard desk edge, but you should only really be resting your wrists when you're not typing, okay? So if you're just kind of taking a break and you're like, okay, I'm thinking, okay, then you rest your wrist down and kind of relax, and then you come back up, and then you should be typing. Constant compression into this area, your nerve does not like for long periods of time, okay? The other thing to think about is your mouse, okay? So when you use your mouse, you want to make sure that you are using your mouse not in this wrist back and forth motion, all right? I don't know if you can see that. Try to move the camera without me breaking it, but see how my wrist is kind of going back and forth? You don't want to do that. It's never good to move the camera in the middle of a video. What you want to do is move from the arm, and you don't ever want your arm all the way out like this. So if I have my mouse over here, this is bad, all right? Everything should be in close to your body, okay? So it's close. I don't ever really work here, so it's not a good spot to set up at. Occasionally I do, but you want your mouse in close to your body, all right, in close to your keyboard so that you're not reaching all the way out, kind of doing that, all right? The other thing that you want to avoid is this. And I am so guilty of this, I rest my elbows all the time. And again, if you're doing that a lot, you're going to compress your ulnar nerve potentially at your elbow, all right? And that can cause issues into your ring finger and your little finger potentially. So if you're compressing your carpal tunnel and your median nerve, you're going to get symptoms into your thumb, index, middle, and half of your ring. And if you're compressing your nerve at your elbow, you're going to get little finger, half of ring finger. I did a whole series on numbness and tingling, some videos. I think there was 3 or 4. And those are on my Biz page, so you can certainly go back and take a peek at those if you're having any numbness or tingling. I also have a free book on numbness and ebook on numbness and tingling as well. And I have a free ebook on tips to stay healthy at your work site as well. And I'll drop that link below. So as you adjust your keyboard and you get into a better position, so about 70 degrees here, your wrist should be nice and straight, okay? When you're looking at your monitor, you want to make sure that when you look at the monitor, and usually I move everything over so it's all in line, you want it straight on, all right? The monitor needs to be straight on. And when you look at the monitor, you should see, your eyes should meet the top of the screen, not the top of the black part of the monitor, but the top of the screen. And it should be straight on. And I know a lot of people use dual screens these days, which is fine. You're going to put the dual screens right in front of you. Make sure you can raise them up on reams of paper, or you can get a fancy stand. They have fancy stands out there. But just make sure that they are at that eye level so that you're not bending your neck down and you're not extending your head back. And what you want to make sure is that it's close enough to you as well so that you're not doing this. Right? Most of us, when we're at a desk job, we're doing this and this, okay? And those are really not great positions to be in for 8 to 10 hours a day. So we have to work on getting out of those positions and setting ourselves up as ergonomically correct as we possibly can. So everything is dependent upon the other thing. If you really want to go hogwash, you can get a standing desk so that you can actually convert it from sit to stand. And then you can stand for a little while, and then you can sit for a little while. But it depends on your employer if they'll let you do that. A lot of places will. So start with the keyboard, then work your chair so that you're not, the key is you don't want to be hunking up your shoulders, all right? Your elbows don't want to be all the way up here. Your arm doesn't want to be all the way out here when you're actually using your mouse. You don't want to be going back and forth with your wrist. You want to be moving from the arm, like this is better, okay? And the monitor needs to be right in front of you. And if you have 2, it should be right in front of you and close, so that all you really need to do is move your eyes back and forth. That's the goal. If you're having to do this or to do this, then that's what you want to avoid, all right? And if you're having to do this to see, that means you need to bring the monitor closer to you. The other thing that you want to think about too is static postures that you may put yourself into. So a lot of times when people will be typing or they stop to think, they'll keep their wrist up in kind of extension. I used to do this when I would chart. I'd be thinking, and I'd be writing my notes, but at one minute I'd just be kind of holding my wrist up. And there's no reason for it. It became a habit, but that habit then caused such fatigue in my extensor muscles in the back of my forearm that I ended up getting pain and fatigue, and I actually ended up getting a little bit of a tremor. So again, it was a habit. There was no reason I need to have my wrist up in extension all the time. It was just a habit. So those are things to scan on yourself. So I want you to think about what position are my elbows in? What position are my wrists in? They should be nice and straight, okay? They should not be like curved down or curved back. Typically, more often than not, they're curved back because of the typing and the way that the keyboard is actually set up. Take those little feet off of your keyboard tray so that it actually lays flat. If you can get a good keyboard tray that goes underneath the desks, definitely do that. Adjust your chair so that your shoulders aren't hiking up and that your arms can actually be in the position that you need to be in at the keyboard, okay? And then monitor. The top of the screen needs to be at your eyes, and it needs to be directly in front of you so that you're not doing any of those funky positions. And scan your body for tension. You want to scan your body and see where your tension is. A lot of times we're stressed out, we're so focused on a project, we just sort of start to hike up our shoulders, all right? Make a note. If you do that, take a little sticky note and write shoulders, and then stick it on your monitor so that every time you look at your monitor, you see, relax my shoulders, or relax my hands. Make sure you're not a key slapper either. You don't want to be like slamming down your poor little fingers on the key. Don't take your aggression out on the poor keyboard. So those are just some tips and some ideas to think about. I do go out and do worksite evaluations for people. So if you want me to come out and take a look at how you're actually working at your worksite so that we can see, what habits are you having, that kind of thing. Sometimes it's really hard to tell what you're doing. You can videotape yourself as well, and you might get some more information on how you're actually working as well, and that can give you feedback. But remember, you're at your desk for 8 hours a day at minimum usually, and you're really focused and you're doing work. So you want to make sure that your body is in as good of a possible position as you can get it in that is as ergonomically correct, biomechanically correct for your body. So take the guidelines that are out there. You see them all over. They're all over the website. You can Google anything. But take those guidelines and make them work for your body type. That's the most important thing. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to talk about it. And I'll drop the link below for the ebook. And let me know if you have any questions.